Hey, how's it going? Chris Courtney here, New Pragmatic. You're in the pre-show, the pre-game. We're pre-gaming here. Um, CouchBot hasn't fired yet because we obviously just started up the stream. I can actually hear my computer this morning like buzzing. I'm not really quite sure why it's so upset. And I have the tiny hands, so it's got to be a good day, right? Also of note, as I put the tiny hand back on, we have a new row of stickies up here. That means that actually, that doesn't fully mean anything. What it does mean in this particular case is that, because frankly, there's stickies like everywhere. I'm just surrounded by stickies, which is a very UX thing to do. But in this case, that is not like an affinity mapping exercise back there. That is simply a visual representation of my board of things to do. And that orange row is now representing a whole series of career exercises. As I wrap up, I've got most of this blue row wrapped up. There's only two left that don't have a big X on them. And what that means is the UX updates are almost done. And I'm pushing into career as I have a number, if not most, of my students going through some form of career work. And we've released some new material lately focused on like job hunting, using a job tracker. But I've got some other things that I'm very interested in getting out there. One of the questions that often comes up is, how do I know what to say when they ask me how much I want, or ask, salary requirements? It's always a tough question. It's always a tough question that comes up, and then people are like, "Well, how do I handle it?" And what I've learned over time is that people are just dreadfully uncomfortable with talking about money. And frankly, I'm not the world expert on talking about money. But what I do know is I do know how to find out what people around me are making, and I know how to use that data to build a case for more money. So you can't do that though unless you know what the market gives you. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. Also working on a few other things that are portfolio focused. Building a portfolio is not just sitting down and throwing all your stuff into a website, regardless of whether you code it yourself or whether you use some sort of off-the-shelf generator. It still needs to be structured, and that's interesting because today's feedback loop, Rebecca's got some stuff submitted that it's going into like WordPress, but she's trying to figure out how to get things to show up the same way. So it all comes back to, okay, how do I put it in? And right now CouchBot has fired, and you're right there, so we're gonna get this underway. Hey everybody, Chris Courtney here, New Pragmatic. It's time for the feedback loop. So good to have you along. Pretty light day today, so we're going to talk about a couple of things real quick that are pertinent to the program and give you a peek into what's happening. We are on the cusp. If you see this orange row behind me, we're on the cusp of releasing a lot of new career-focused curriculum. That's mainly because we're finally at that point where we can talk about career with most of the students who started back last September. So last September, there were some students that came through. They've been through UX, they've been through interface. They're now getting into the part where they're building portfolios, and they're going to be job hunting soon. So I'm wanting to get some of my thoughts out on the job hunt. That's why, maybe a week ago or so, we released the job tracking spreadsheet video. But there's other things coming. One big one is and this is a question that always comes up when I'm working with my career students, is you get into the interview and they ask you how much you should be paid. I'm going to cover that because it's one of those things where the easy answer is what the market provides is what you should be paid. The question is what does the market provide, and how do I find that out? So I'm going to break that down for you in greater detail. It's something that it takes a little bit. It does shift from place to place. Like I will say that 100%. Like that, the number's not going to be uniform across the board. You've got to find out what the number is for you in the place that you're in. And remote, I do have a calculation about how remote should work, because it's that's going to companies are trying to figure that out. Frankly, like Facebook, they're going about it, I believe, completely the wrong way. We're going to pay you what you would make if you were working for Facebook in Billings, Montana, and that's not right. That's you should pay what you should pay what you pay Facebook. Um, if you're working in a remote role, just to give you the back of the napkin math, you're going to work at a discount of whatever the pay scale would be. If they're in San Francisco and it's very expensive in San Francisco, you're not going to make San Francisco wages working in Memphis, okay? But you should make better than Memphis wages. Okay, that's your impetus, that's your upside to working for Facebook. They are going to make less, and you're going to make more. Now, frankly, kids, don't go work for Facebook. But there's an example because they've got a remote workforce, and they're talking about pay scales right now. My whole goal for you though is to understand that you're not going to make that San Francisco money, okay? But you should make more money than where you're at. Because that otherwise, why wouldn't you just work somewhere nearby? Okay, that's the upside. And this works for a lot of companies. LA is a really expensive city to live in. DC is a really expensive. New York City. Okay, there are expensive places that have a lot of tech jobs that it would behoove those companies that are in those places to hire people outside of their home locations. There's also completely remote workforces, and those are a little more unique in that you lack that ability to say, okay, here's what they would make if they were in that particular town, because there is no particular town. But we'll go into that more. In the exercises that I'm now moving into. So that list, and is it going to grow? Probably. The amazing thing is the Fresh Market project. When we extracted it from UX and we put it all together, it's like 27 exercises long, and it sounds like a lot, honestly. But when you get in and you say, okay, I'm going to take a project from inception to fruition, 27 exercises is actually pretty short. So it's all about understanding the scope of the work. And when you're doing job hunting, it's a big job. So just understand that going in. What from there, I want to talk about a couple things. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And let's move over here. This COVID-19 design challenge popped up on my radar. And what's interesting about this is that it's associated with IBM. And we've talked about these sort of things before. So COVID, help with COVID-19 is the one that we've talked about in great detail. And this is a very deep well of projects that you could work on. Some of these are 2 months old at this point. Many of you have worked on one or more of these projects. If I go over to see all and I go through project types and I go, okay, well, I want to look for only things that are going to need design help, and then I'm going to sort by latest. I'm just kind of curious. So this was somebody was just making a test clearly, but there are other projects 1 hour ago, 5 hours ago, 14 hours ago, 1 day, 3 days. So there are projects out there. You can see India is really picking up speed here. India, mainly India is spiking right now. So you're going to see a lot of projects from India and frankly Brazil, maybe even Russia. I would not be surprised if we see more projects. But like there are 734 projects inside of this Help with COVID site that's looking for help with design. I'm wondering. Yeah, they don't break out design into anything more than well, let's see here. Looks like it apply. Okay, 220 results. Okay, 730 projects in the project itself, but 220 of them are looking for design help. Anyway, over here though, this is a much more refined group. So there's this design challenge. IBM's had it, and they've got 5 initiatives that they've kind of like built around awareness and communications. This is just like, hey, let's make some banners that can go on social media. I'm not a big fan of this. I think that you can pretty much get a Canva account and create like 10 of these in like 5 minutes, and then it's done. So I would avoid this one. Essential workers. This is interesting to me because if you view the outcomes, what you'll find is that there are projects where, like this is like building a playbook, and there's no real way to like get involved. It's just like here's a team that has built something. COVID-19 now need now connect. So this is like a PPE platform. Here you can join the team, and if you have UX, project management, development, branding, you're valuable. So you can fill out the form to get involved. And here are the people that are involved, and this is fine. There are projects through here that make sense. This one, I'm not really sure. Like, this is a social media campaign. It's like, hey, we're gonna take photos and we're gonna paste something over the top of them. It's fine. It's not something that requires technical skill and I'd rather you not get into things that are like, hey, come use your graphic design skills. I want you getting involved in things that require process and help to build something. So, discovering, finding the problem that they're trying to solve, helping them find the right user, those sorts of issues, like vulnerable communities. We come down here, and so this is Family Hub, and it's focused around helping communications for senior citizens and staying connected with their distributed families and receive greater support. This is really a great idea, not just within the context of COVID. It's just a great idea. I don't know if any of you have ever had a family member inside of a nursing home. I've seen them. I've seen family members that were like really healthy and with it, like in a nursing home, and it like when you have that situation, it's not a big deal. But the moment that you have a family member in a nursing home and they are not doing well, it's very clear how important that connection is, because once the family members aren't around, the gap between them and reality like begins to increase, and it's a really scary thing. So I really like this project in particular. There are ways to get involved, and postcards for isolated elders. That's again another graphic design project. That one's less interesting to me. CoGuard navigation app to help people avoid potentially dangerous crowds. This is smart. You know, am I going to go to this supermarket or that supermarket based on how busy they are at a particular time? Um, it looks like um, it looks like they, you know, you could check out their deck of what they're trying to do, but you could also fill out this and like get involved. So there's lots, you know, there's lots of projects that we could go through and look at. My point for you is this is a thing. This is something that's ongoing. It's not just those awareness, communication, essential workers, vulnerable communities, remote learning, and healthy habits. Some of these feel distinctly graphic design. Others do feel like UX process. Focus on the UX process ones. Avoid the graphic design ones. I mean, it's you could do that anywhere. Um, and you might be able to might be able to mine something out of this. So COVID-19 Design Challenge.org, associated with IBM. I think this is Design for America, although it doesn't go anywhere in particular. Does this go to IBM? No. And it looks like this is just a Squarespace anyway. God, I hate Squarespace. All right. Did that slip out? That slipped out. Okay. Rebecca's got, and I do want to make sure that nobody else is submitted into the feedback loop. Like I said, it's a light morning. But Rebecca's got a question. She has a process question that actually is really interesting. And this is somewhat graphic design focused, but it's a problem that vexes people over and over and over again. And it says, how would I go about making all these icons the same size and width, same size in width and height, so they look right in the WordPress site that I'm building? And the problem that she has is should be pretty easy to see. So when we sit here and we look at this, we have these icons, and right now, some of them are relatively square. Okay, so like these two are relatively square. This one is rectangular. Okay, and then this one is a little taller, and then this one's really rectangular. So there's a couple of things that you could do, and you have to kind of think about, all right, so what is my end goal here? Is my end goal to have them all feel like they fit into this sort of frame? And if it is, then, I mean, it's pretty simple. I'm going to take this frame and reverse out, you know, kind of get rid of the plus symbol here and reverse out and place everything inside of it. That isn't the only way that you can do this. One of the things that I like to do is I'll go through and I'll create a frame. And this frame, you know, right now it's 100 by 100. I'll make it 150 by 150 just to give us something to work with. And let's go ahead and put our it looks like a medical cross symbol inside of it. Now I could blow that up. I could make it go, you know, really easily, just make it touch all the edges, and that's fine. And what's going to happen is it's going to, you know, I'm going to get rid of the fill in the background. It's going to export this, and it's going to be 150 by 150. If I come over here and I do the same with, you know, let's get the health and safety out of that one. Let's drag this in. Obviously, this isn't going to have the same result because it's, you know, it's not a perfect square. So it's going to be a little off. I'm going to continue down this line of thought here, and I'm going to go ahead and put a fill on the back of these so that we can kind of see just how different they are. Now the circle here with the check mark, whatever this symbol's meant to be, this is going to be one of the simpler ones because it's a perfect circle. So it's going to be at that size. This is going to be one of the ones that may give you trouble, but you control everything about this. You know, this is not something that has to be difficult to handle because, you know, when we drag this in, well, technically I could make it this big, but then you've got the space at the bottom. I could very easily come through and say, okay, well, I'm just going to drag it down, or if you said specifically, hey, I just want these points to be at the bottom. I hate it when that happens, but yeah. And you're using the bounding box of the frame to like make that work. So that's a square again. And then here the triangle's similar. I mean, it can touch all the edges. Although in this particular case, that's about as close as you're going to get. And then finally, this last one with the people. The people are interesting because they are simply put very wide and not tall. Now, you could make them longer. You know, I wouldn't make them like longer like that. I do think there is some benefit to keeping them like this. It also looks like a face. Like I see two eyes, and then like it's almost like the Batman character Two-Face. Like one side's burned, the other side's not burned. Acid attack. In this particular instance, this is one of those ones where I almost want to go in and simply copy over this concept. Let's go in here and get this. So now we've got this shape, and if I copy these little people over, let's ungroup these. Yeah, all right. So we've got this, and I can go through, and I could come through and just like let's just reverse this one out. So I'm going to come through and subtract selection. So that's one, but the second one that you've got, let's see here. Interesting. So it's like this has been grouped already. Oh, I see. It has been grouped already. All right. So this is where what I might do. I mean, there's a variety of ways I could do this. So I could come through and actually do it this way, where I'm going to basically oops, that's not what I want. Interesting. Okay, so I'm going to paste that in over here so I can actually get to it. Yes, subtract. Actually, I want it to go the other way with it. Okay, so now I've got it like this, and I can come in and essentially, you know, I do want to come through and adjust this shape a bit. Actually, let's drag this over here because I need to adjust the underlying shape that's being masked out. when I do that, I should have a better shape to work with for pairing this together. And then from here, I can just, I can subtract that out. And we can come through and continue to work on this underlying shape until we get it like where we want it to be. Sometimes you just have to come in and you have to keep working with the shape. It's not quite what I want it to be yet, but I can continue to keep working on it. But this approach, it allows us to get the two people in the box. And this is now the same size as the other ones. So that's the one that I thought was going to be the biggest issue for you. It's the one icon that doesn't really work. Everything else can be kind of boxed up. That one can't. The other option, you can go a different direction with this. You could go and say, oh, hey, instead of everything going up, I'm going to make everything have the same frame. Okay, so these icons will be roughly the same in size, but they'll be exported with the same boundaries. So when you pull it in, let's export this. So I'll take the fill off, and I'll just export the two. So I'll just export this as a PNG. Yeah, that's fine. And let's export the same one, but at the full size. And I want you to see the difference. Yeah, I know my desktop sucks. Nobody told Chris's desktop sucks, but that's the truth. It sucks. So here's frame 1 and frame 2. Now these look like two different sizes, and that's because one has space around the icon, the other one does not. So you have a couple of options here. You could either do it like this, where I'll put that fill back in. You could either do it like this, where the fill and the size of the frame is basically holding the constraints together, and these look roughly similar in size. Or you could do it like this and say, okay, well, for the things that can't be a perfect square, I'm going to adopt the shape and make them a perfect square. For the other things that can't be a perfect square, I'm going to adjust the form in so that they grow to that square. The only one that then becomes an issue is the triangle, and my suggestion there would be to probably bring it down in size and just reverse the triangle out as you have with the plus symbol here. Okay, so you basically do the same thing with the triangle, but you can go two different ways with it. The way it is right now for the triangle means that this is more in that camp. But there is no, when you have a style and there's an icon that has a perfect square to it, it's always going to appear larger unless you make everything else conform to it, or you make the space around the icon constrain it. Okay, and will there still be some variance? Well, yeah, there's still some variance between the two, but there's not nearly as much as there was before. Okay, so just keep that in mind as you're working, and I am a fan of putting the space around. I'm also a fan of making it all conform and bringing it into alignment together. What's right for you will depend on the project that you're working on. Okay, but that said, I'm going to wrap this up because I've blathered on long enough. I hope that you have a great rest of your day. I'll be looking forward to talking to some of you in just a little bit. Rebecca, I know you're on the call later. Eve, you're coming up as well. And I want to say Chelsea is on the list, I believe. Or maybe she's off to tomorrow. can't quite keep it all in the noggin. And while I'm waiting to meet with you, I'm going to go work on this list over here. So have a great rest of your day, and I will chat with some of you later today and the rest of you tomorrow. Take care.